Hi guys, it's Bella, and in this video I am going to introduce you guys to some Gothic archaeology and use it as a springboard to teach you the Gothic language. So I'm going to show you artifacts from Ostrogothic or Visigothic fine contexts, and I'm going to show you verses in the Gothic Bible where the word for that object is used. And I have fitted this text with a gloss, a grammatical gloss to help you learn the Gothic language. So the way this works is all of the cases have colours. So red is for the subject, red is for the object, green is for possessive, so apostrophe S. Blue is for extra information. It does a lot of different things. Purple is for direct address. And I give examples of all of these uses in this page here. And lastly, bold is for just regular verbs, and bold and underlined are for infinitive verbs. So you can see how they all work here. So without further ado, let's get on to our first one, which is 𝍃���������������. 𝍃������������. And this is literally gulf, gold, and fingra, finger. So it's like finger gold. And presumably in Gothic you could construct other such words like silúbragulf for silver ring. And we have this word attested only once in Gothic. Here it is in the context of the verse, 𝍃������������, and it's in the context of the story of the prodigal son. So the Gothic reads in the Gospel according to Luke chapter 15, verses 21 to 24. It reads, 𝍃����������������🔫 ata �������������������� in himin ������������������� 𐌲���������������� in werths I heteddo sunus thins. Quathan sa ata 𝍼𝌰������������. Sproto bringeth ������������������� 𐌲������������ 𐍃���������������������������🐶𝐼𝐻𝑔𝑜հ𝑖𝑎𝑛𝑎 𝐼𝐻 𝐻𝑏𝑟𝑖ngandans 𝑠tíorðana 𝑎liðan ufsnithith. Means dothwas 𝐼𝐻 𝐻bhralusanswas 𝐻bhigidhanswas So this means 𝐻𝑒𝑒𝑖𝑚𝑎𝑠𝑎𝑠𝑢nus, the son spoke to him, Ata, father, 𝑓rawarta in himin 𝐻in anwarthiathinama. I have sinned against heaven, because in plus the accusative is into, and in this case this sort of means against. I have sinned against heaven, 𝐻in anwarthiathinama, and in your presence. So he sinned against God and against his father, because this is the prodigal son, remember, who spent all of his father's inheritance. Euthanasiths niim werths. Now, hereon, I am not worthy. Niim, I am not worthy. Werths. You can see the connection. I heteddo sunus thins. That I may be called your son, sunus thins. Quathvan sa atadus skalkam sinem. Spoke then the father to his servants. Sproto bringeth 𝍲𝌰🹃��������. Quickly, bring the sort of best clothing, 𝍃𝌵𝑠𝑡, the first-rate clothing, 𝐻𝑔𝑜h𝑖𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒�े 𝐻𝑔𝑌𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒 And this is an interesting one. Give a finger ring into his hand, because handu is accusative. So give a finger ring into his hand. 𝐻𝑔𝑜h𝑖𝑎𝑛𝑎 and shoes on his feet. 𝐻bhraingandans 𝑠tíorðana 𝑎liðan, and bringing the recent and bringing the fattened calf, kill it, ufsnithith. 𝐻matjandans 𝑉𝑠𝑎𝑚𝑤𝑒𝑙𝑎, and eating we will feast well. Untesasunus means dothwas, since that son of mine was dead. Dothwas 𝐻𝑔𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒𝑒, and he has been brought back, or he is brought back. 𝐻bhralusanswas, and he was lost. 𝐻bhigidhanswas, he was lost and he was found again, or he became found. 𝐻dugununwisan, and they began to feast. So it's a very happy ending and a story of forgiveness at the end of the prodigal son story in the Gothic Bible. And this particular ring is, I believe, from an Ostrogothic find context. It was found along with the famous eagle brooch whose image you may be familiar with if you're familiar with Gothic archaeology. And when the Goths read this Bible, they may have been thinking of a ring just like this. So we come to our next word, which is �������������🐶, and it is belt. So we've got two lines for this. The first one is just a simple passage from Mark 1:6 describing John the Baptist. So 𝍆����������🐶🐶🐶🐶🐶🐶🐶🐶. So John the Baptist was then 𝍆��������🐲 clothed 𝍆���������🍆 with the skins of a camel, 𝍆����������🐶, and a belt, �����������🐶, leather, 𝍃�������������𝑛𝑎𝑛𝑎, by his hip. Literally, you can see by hip, 𝍃����. You can see the connection with English. 𝑠𝑖𝑛𝑎𝑛𝑎, by his hip. 𝑗𝑎𝑰𝑆𝑔 and he ate roots or tubers. 𝑗𝑎𝑰𝑆𝑔, and I believe 𝍃𝑐𝑒, some kind of, it's definitely not dairy milk, it's a specific kind of milk which I'm forgetting right now, but he's drinking some kind of milk. So that's a description of John the Baptist. And this is another passage where something closer to the artifact we have here is described. So 𝍃���������𝑒𝑛𝑎 𝍃���������𝑒𝑛𝑎 So, and he says, and 𝍃���������𝑒𝑚 preached to them that they not take anything on the way, so on their journey. And in 𝑖n𝑤𝑖g, again, 𝑤𝑖g is accusative, so it's into the journey. So and it can also sort of mean for the purpose of the journey. So tell them not to take anything for the purpose of their journey. Niva hrungaena, except for a staff, nicht ���𝑐𝑒, not a food bag, 𝑚𝑎𝑡𝑖𝑣𝑎𝑙𝑔, 𝑛ichleph, nor bread or a loaf. You can see the connection, leph and loaf. You can maybe see the connection with English. Nich in gerdas es, nor a bronze bit of the belt. And this is sort of what we have here. Ac gascohe sulium, but let us, I think this is go forth, shewed, and tell them not to wear two, and may you not wear two clothes, 𝑡𝑤𝑒𝑚 or two tunics. So this is a message from the Gospel of Mark 6:8 about not being greedy, not using more for yourself than you need. You might even say, from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. And this is this bit here, in es, in the bronze of the belt. I think this is referring to specifically to the buckle of the belt, and we have a lot of these surviving from Ostrogothic and Visigothic contexts because metal items are more likely to survive. You'll see a trend that a lot of the artifacts I'm going to show you here are in fact metal. This one is from a Visigothic context, and it demonstrates the kind of jeweled cloisonné design with these garnets in the middle of the metalwork, and the kind of geometric pattern design that is quite common to the migration era and also to late antiquity. So this is a kind of high status belt that Christ in the Gospel of Mark is telling people not to wear when they go for holy work. So our next item is ���������𝑐𝑒. ���������𝑐𝑒 is a chain, and we have two verses where a chain is mentioned. Now, the mention of chains here is a bit more metaphorical than literal, but I have shown you a chain from an Ostrogothic grave, which originally held a pendant, I believe. So the verses are 𝑍𝑰𝑆 Williams in honine 𝍃𝌺������������������������������������������������𝑐𝑒 Swarri uflesans fram frathia likisines, 𝑗𝑎𝑰𝑆𝑔 𝑍𝑰𝑆 Ustami allik 𝑍𝐹𝐺𝐵𝑖𝑛𝑑𝑜𝑠 So this is may nobody quarrel with you, wanting that which I did not, wanting that which I think supplicating myself, did not see. In honine, I think this is in prayer, ���𐺹𐺶𝐻, and in sacrificing of the angels. 𝍃𐌹𐌱, I believe is in vain. 𐍃���𐌰����𐌲����, what's the word? Blowing up, literally, like puffing up, from 𝍃𝐺𝐹𝐿𝐴, from the understanding of his body. That he did not see. So all of this is referring to the person who may fight with you. So may nobody fight with you, a person wanting that which he did not see in whatever honine is. I think it's boasting, and in sacrificing of the angels, blowing himself up in vain from an understanding of his body. So what this is referring to is that the person who's going to fight with you is sort of has an overinflated understanding of his own worth, because he sort of is thinking in terms of the body and of the material world. �������������������������, and not having a head, being a bit thick. So, not having a head, from which 𝑢σταμι, the whole body, so through knowledges, through awarenesses, and chains. So this is referring in a metaphorical sense to rules, gabindos here, through which the whole body, in increasing and in developing, I believe, grows in God's growth, in God's increase. So what this is saying is that it's from Paul's letter to the Colossians, and he's hoping that nobody who's a bit too full of themselves, because they're a big shot in the physical world, will conflict with the Christian going about their preaching. And the second one is a very simple and pleasant verse from the same book. 𝐼𝐿𝐴 si est 𝍃𝐺𝐵𝐴𝐻𝐵𝐴. So, however, above all things, 𝍃𝐺𝐵𝐴, charity, si est 𝐺𝐵𝐴𝐻𝐵𝐴, which is the chain, the sort of connector of 𝐻𝐵𝐴𝐻𝐵𝐴, sort of one-mindedness, community, being together, etc. So that's when they imagine, then when they read these verses, they may have been imagining a chain like this fancy one that we've got here. Our next item is an earthenware vessel, or just a container of some kind. And here is one, I believe, from this is a Visigothic container. It's just a very simple one. It's not very elaborate, but it's the kind of thing they would have been pouring their liquids out of, or storing their liquids in. More likely, based on the shape, this is a storage vessel. So it says, Athan in ���𝐺𝐴𝐻𝐵𝐴𝐻𝐵 nisint thatini kasa ���𝐿𝐵𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐼, 𝑍𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐼, sumatan du unswerem. Athan 𝑗āhve sikthisi, werthethkas du swerlithe, 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐵𝐽𝐻, brukporin du 𐍃�����������𝐿𝐴. So this verse is from Paul's letter to Timothy, to chapter 20, verses 20 to 21, and it's saying, however, in a great house there are not only gold vessels and earthenware vessels, but there are also triwina, literally tree, wooden kasa vessels, 𝐼𝐻𝐵𝐴, and earthenware vessels. So 𝑔𝑢𝐿𝐵𝐼𝐻, golden, 𝑠ilubrina, silver, triwina, wooden, and 𝐵𝐴, earthenware, and these are all referring to kaza, which is vessels. Forgive the notification there. 𐍰��������������������. Some are for important things, and some are for unimportant things. However, goodness. However, if anyone if anyone cleanses themselves of these things, ������������������, the container becomes �������������������, becomes for an important thing. �������������������, this is it is sanctified, useful, �����������, useful to the Lord. 𐍃������������������������. So this is saying that there are not even in a wealthy place, there's going to be multiple vessels, because there are many ways of preaching to people. Scuts is our next one, and this is a coin. And our verse, there are many verses which involve coins, but the one we're focusing on here is from the Gospel through Luke, chapter 20, verses 21 to 25, and it says, 𝍃�����������������������, ������������������������������, ac ���������������������. Scorðu est unsis ���������������������. ����������� ��������� ����������� ����������. Adogith miskat. 𝍃�������� �������������������. �vr���������� 𝑘αίσαρις, ηθ 𝑖ς Ostrogothic 𝍃����������������������. So what this is 𝑗ahvrechon and the ones speaking asked him, Lesari, teacher, witum thati rechtabarodis yachlesis yachni ansechwizanwerthi. We know that you teach and that you rightly you speak and you teach, and you do not see unto the end, but truly bisunye we gudis lesis. Truly you see the path of God. Sorry, you teach the path of God. And so they ask, these are the Pharisees, and they ask Jesus then a question. Skuldu est unsis ����������� 𝑉𝑰𝑔𝑔𝑒𝑉𝑎𝑛. Necessary is it for us to the emperor gold to give or not? So should we pay taxes? I should say tax is a better translation of 𝑔𝑖ld, to the emperor or not? And so then they switch back to Jesus. So 𝑏𝑠𝑒𝑗uan ise unselin Jesus 𝑐𝑢𝑎𝑡ℎ. So seeing around then their unselin, their unholiness, that they were up to no good. Jesus 𝑐𝑢𝑎𝑡ℎ, Jesus spoke to them. Why are you asking me? Adogith miskat. Show me a coin. 𝍃𝆆𝑰𝑃 𝍃𝌈𝑃. Who has this manlikan? This is sort of a man likeness, so a portrait like this, and whose inscription is this 𝑍𝒑𝒻𝒃. And Anhapiandans answering Van Gwaithun, they said, Caesaris, it's the inscription and the picture of the emperor. It is 𝑍𝒑𝒂, but he said to them, now give out those things of the emperor to the emperor Caesar. That's why it's in the dative. 𝑍𝒑𝒂, and those things which are of God to God. A very famous line about whether Christians should pay tax. And this here is a surviving Visigothic coin. And I chose it because it's quite typical of the sort of really abstract iconographic style of Visigothic coins, where the face becomes these handful of shaky lines and the body becomes these two triangles, these crisscross triangles. I believe this is 𝑉𝒺𝒺𝒃, but I'm not certain because it's a bit hard to read the inscription. And yeah, so these are the sorts of coins that the Goths would have been using in their day-to-day lives. So our next artifact is lukarn, which is a lantern. And this is a typical example of the kinds of oil lamps that would have been used at the time, especially in the Ostrogothic kingdom. And the line from the Gospel of Matthew, book 6, verses chapter 2 to 23, it reads, Lukarn likest ist augo. Llave ni ogo thin enfalf ist, alata lik thin 𝍃���������������������. Id llave ogo thin unsel ist, alata lik thin �������������������. Llave ni 𝍃������� thata in thus riquis ist, thata riquis Juan So what this is it starts off with the word straight away, lukarn, lantern, of the body ist augo, is the eye. So the lantern of the body is the eye. Llave nu ogo thin enfalf ist. So if your eye is now clean or simple, alata lik thin ����������������������. All body yours, so all of your body, ����������, sort of illuminated or light-giving, it becomes. So if your eye is clean, I think this is referring to your thoughts and what you're getting yourself involved with. If these are clean, the whole of your body will be clean. If llave ogo thin unsel ist, however, if your eye is unclean, alata lik thin �������������������. Your whole body becomes �����������, shadowy. Llave nu 𝍃������� thata, since if now that eye shines, if now that shines in you, it is if now that shadow shines within you. So if now if now that light in you is a shadow. So he's saying that if you don't actually have a light in you, but your light is really evil, it's really a shadow. ������������������. How great a shadow that is. So he's saying if you sort of have a dark part of your soul where it should be a positive part of your soul, then that's even worse, I suppose. And of course, Jesus would famously say, if your eye is bothering you or is wrong, then cut it out, really. Our next artifact is a crown, and of course we get the word crown comes up in our Gothic Bible when they are about to crucify Christ. So this passage here reads, Ith Pilatus Williams these manarin ������������������ ��������������������� 𐍃������������. Ith ����������������������� 𝍃����������������. Ith ��WHO🌶🌶🌶🌶 thati is praetorion, 𝑍𝐻𝑒𝑡𝑢𝑛 purpurae 𝑍𝐻𝑒𝑡𝑢𝑛 �θόρνηνα uswindandans 𝑍𝐻𝐿𝐿𝐻𝑒𝑡𝑢𝑛 𝐻𝑒𝑠𝑡𝑢𝑛. So, this passage reads, however, Pilate, Williams these manarin ��������������, wanting to appease this crowd, 𝑍𝐿𝐿𝐻𝑒𝑡𝑢𝑛 𝐻𝑒𝑠𝑡𝑢𝑛. So he released to them that man Barabbas, ith Jesu adraf uspling. So, but he gave Jesus to them to be beaten, basically. So that he may be guiltless. So he gave Jesus away, sort of remitting or sort of dismissing any responsibility on Pilate's part. Ith gadrochtis gatohun inanagardis. However, gadrochtis, the soldiers, gatohun led him inanagardis into further into the enclosure. Thati is praetorion, that is called a praetorium in Latin.
����������������������������������������������������������������������🐶 and they summoned all of the troop of soldiers, 𝑍𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴, and they clothed him 𝑝urpurae with purple. So this is mocking him basically by crowning him with the royal colour. 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴, and they laid upon him a thorny 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴 crown, 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴, windlands winding it out. �����������������������������������������������������������🐶, and they began to hail him or greet him. Hails 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴, greetings, King of the Jews. So it is further mocking Jesus. And this here is not actually a crown that any Visigothic king would have worn. Rather, these are devotional crowns that would have been hung up at the altar, and they were given as a sign of the king's munificence to the church. This particular crown was given by King 𝍃������������, whose name is spelled out by these letters around the crown. It's a really beautiful example of a Visigothic crown. So maybe the crowns that their kings wore were a bit less elaborate than this, but they may have been imagining something a bit like the band in the middle here when the Visigoths read this passage in the Bible. So we now come on to this really famous symbol, especially in the online Gothic community, of Gothic identity, and this is the ara. And I'm actually going to do a whole video about this passage later on, because right now, as I'm filming the video, it is Pride Month, and this passage actually gives us basically a Gothic word for lesbian. And depending on how you choose to translate it, and it deals with LGBT issues, but in a very circuitous way. I'm going to deliberately not give like the game away. I won't tell you the queer meaning of it. I'll just translate the passage for you, and I'll let you guys guess, because I will do a video explaining this passage afterwards. But this passage is relevant here because it's the only passage in the Bible in which the word eagles comes up. So, 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴 𝐼𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴 samin, ens usnimada, 𝑍𝌰🌹�������𶑰. 'Twas worth and malandin samana, ena usnimada, 𝑍𝌰🌹����𶑰. 𝌲𝌰�������𐍃������������𐍰 𝑐rucifix, it is quathim, 𝑍𝌰🌹 𝑍𝌰🌹����𝑰. So, this means, he who seeks his soul to save, so whoever tries to preserve his soul, 𝑍𝌰🌹����, destroys it. Yeah, say 𝑍𝌰🌹���� in mina, but he who destroys his soul, 𝑍𝌰🌹, in mina, into mine, 𝑍𝌰🌹����, saves it. 𐌼�������, I say to you, that 𝑍𝌰🌹����🌶 this night, two men end up in bed together. Hence, usnimada 𝑍𝌰🌹����𝑐𝑒𝑛. One is taken away, and the other is left behind. 'Twas worth and malandin samana, two women end up grinding together. Yes, literally, malandins. Ena usnimada, one is taken away, 𝑍𝌰🌹��������, and the other woman is left behind. 𝌻���👺🌲����𑰑����, and this is the disciples, but they don't have the word here. And the ones responding said to him, to Jesus, "Where, Lord? Where is all this happening?" 𝑍𝌾𝑺𝑔𝑐𝑤𝑎𝑡, and Floya is Lord, so where, Lord, is this happening? Is it what they're implying? 𝑍𝌾𝑺𝑔𝑐𝑤𝑎𝑡, but he spoke to them, 𝑍𝌾𝌹 𝑍𝌰🌹����𐰃. So where there is flesh, there 𝑍𝌰🌹, they gather themselves, and it's the eagles, arans, who are gathering themselves. So 𝑍𝌾🌹𝑍𝌰🌹����𐰃. So where there is the body, there the eagles gather. So there you go. That's I won't give the meaning away. If you guess it, let me know in the comments. I'd be curious to see if anyone gets what Jesus is referring to by the ens and andar here. And now let's go on to our next line. This is a mess. So, a quick thing I should say very briefly about this. The artifact is that we often read the ara, the eagle, because it shows up so often as a symbol of Ostrogothic culture. But Patrick Amory points out, first of all, that the ara was already a symbol of the late Roman military. So that's one thing. So it may not necessarily be exclusively Gothic, although the Goths seem to have preferred it, and they wore it in jewelry. Like this is a brooch that you're seeing on the screen, the artifact of an eagle with the famous cloisonné jewelry found in an Ostrogothic context. But it's worth pointing out that some of the famous ones that you can see images of online have actually been found in graves for women. So women may have been wearing these eagles on their chest, and there is definitely a military association. Like in the middle of this eagle, you've got a round shield with the sort of cruciform design on it there. So these definitely have military associations. I'm not saying that this means that the woman this was buried with was a soldier. I think what it shows more so is that the eagle and the military culture associated with the eagle as a symbol of military power became strongly associated with the Ostrogoths in particular because of King Theodoric's rhetoric. And in his law code, he specifically defines the role of the Ostrogoths as military. They are to fight and protect the Italian fatherland, and the Romans are to farm the land and pay taxes. So it's easy to see how the eagle as a symbol of military power became a symbol of Gothicness, although Romans would also use the eagle as a symbol. But just bear in mind that not all of the artifacts of eagle brooches that we have from the Ostrogothic kingdom actually come from male context. Some of them are buried with women. And we come on now to mace, which is a dish, but it can also mean writing tablet. The sort of general meaning seems to be a flat surface. Mace has a lot of different meanings. And the verse in which one of the verses in which it mentions is actually a story of the death of John the Baptist. So it's a bit long, but I'll read it for you. Ith si 𝍃��������������������� 𐍃���������������������� it si 𝑌𝐹𝑖𝑔𝐻𝑖𝑠 Yach atgangandi sunseo sniumnoto 𐍃������������������������������� 𝑉𝐿𝑖 Yach 𐌃������������������������ in these Yach in these 𝐼𝐹𝑖𝑔𝐻𝑖𝑠 𝐼𝐹𝑖𝑔𝐻𝑖𝑠 Yach suns insandians sathíodans speculator Afmemat imahobith in gargare Yach atbartata hobith is anamesa Yach atgaf ita these moe Yach so mawi atgaf ina ita ethin sine. So what this means is it si uskangandi kwath but she going out spoke do ethin sine to her mother huispidio of whom do I ask? It's Sequath. Who should I request from the hall? She's asking, where her father is feasting. It si, that's referring to the mother. Quath. 𝍃������������������ I request the head of John the Baptist. Yach atgangandi sunseo sniumnodo, and immediately going out quickly 𝑑𝑢𝑡𝑎𝑚𝑎𝑡hiodana to the king. Bathquitandi. She asked, saying, Wilio, I want, imisrives, that you give to me, ana mesa, on a dish, on a plate, or in a bowl, hovith Johannes Thestopiandins, the head of this John the Baptist. Yach Gordas Warthans, having been made sad because he doesn't want to kill him, Satheodans, the king, in these on these oaths, and on account, of these, I think it's ethe is either oaths or kin, in these mithanakumbianvane, And on these fellow diners, ���������������������������������������� Anakombian is a word borrowed in from Latin, which means to recline or to lie down, because the Goths, it seems, maybe associated fine dining with reclining. So maybe Ostrogothic royalty adopted the practice of lying down to eat like the Romans would. So on account of these, the king, who was made sad, 𝍃𐌰���𐌲𐌲, he did not want, 𝍃�����������𐌱��������, he did not want to upset her. 𐿼𒃺���������🐶🍹🐹🐹 speculator, and immediately sending in, the king immediately sending in a speculator, which is a Roman and Greek term, which basically means executioner, speculator. 𐌼𒌰𒌰����, so he cut off, the speculator, cut off Imma from him, that's referring to John, 𝍃𝐺, the head, in carcere, in the prison, 𝌼𝌹������𶶃 is anamesa, and carried in that head of him on a plate, �����������������������������, and presented it to this girl, 𝌲����������������������������, and this girl gave it to her mother. So a really grisly scene of King Herod's daughter and mother, and King Herod's daughter's mother. Very interesting story there about the death of John the Baptist, and we can see the word Mace clearly being used to mean plate. Now, I'm showing you here an artifact which is presently stored in the British Museum. It's actually really interesting in so many ways. I like it because, first of all, I love artifacts like this that show you sort of everyday life, but also you've got this inscription on the inside. The outside inscription, which you can't see, and you can't see the inside one either because the photo is too small, but the outside inscription is a reference to the lion from the tribe of Judah, and it's worth noting that the lion from the tribe of Judah it's a reference to the book of Revelation, and Beatus was a famous Visigothic theologian who would write an extended treatise on the book of Revelation. So it's possible that the book of Revelation was especially favored by the Visigoths. There could be various reasons why this is, but one of them is that Roman writers such as Jerome associated the invasions of Gothic barbarians into Roman territories with the biblical book of Revelation and the end of times. So it's possible that the Visigoths almost internalized this and came to see themselves as in some way connected to Apocalypse, to biblical revelation. So really interesting cultural connections there with this Visigothic artifact, but also this here says mirare or mirate maleficium 𝍃𝌰🌃🌃, admire. Maleficium in Latin is like handiwork, but it's a really rare word, maleficium. Much more common as a word is maleficium, which means witchcraft or sorcery. And I wonder if there was some kind of connection there, the n and the ul maybe being similar enough to be confused. And this word, this name 𝍃𝌰🌃🌃, you can argue that it maybe means blind to God, 𝍃𝌃𝌃𝑗us in Latin. I've tried to figure if it might be a Romanized form of a Visigothic name, but I haven't been able to think of it. If it were in Gothic, it would be 𝌲���������������� in Gothic, 𝌲����������������. But that's clearly not the kind of name that we've got reflected here. Or maybe 𝌲��������🍰🍰. But anyway, what's really interesting about this, though, is that this same name, 𝍃𝌃🃃, or a very similar name to it, shows up on a Visigothic curse tablet, which invokes 𝍃𝌃🃃🃗's magic to protect a villa. So maybe 𝍃𝌃🃃🃗 was this sort of maybe a remnant of a pagan wizard among the Visigoths. It's really hard to tell, and the connection is really spurious. I need to do a full video on this dish and the connection with that curse tablet because it's so interesting, and I can't find this name anywhere else. That's why I think there's a connection. 𝍃𝌃🃗. I cannot find that name outside of this outside of the curse tablet and this bowl. I also can't really find the word maleficium anywhere either. So absolutely fascinating artifact, and it gives you an insight to the kind of cutlery that wealthy Visigoths might have been eating off of it at their feasts. So we come on now to our very last artifact, which is, of course, a cross, galga. And you might notice the connection with the word gallows, because that's the words that the Goths were thinking of to describe a cross. So this passage is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 10, verses 17 to 22, and it reads, "If is 𝍃𐌹��� but he spoke to them." Oh, I'll read out the whole thing first. "If is ��������� ������������������������������� ni ����🌶 ����������������������� �������������������� anavus kant ni ���������� ni ���🹹��� ni �������� ni ���𝌆𝌶 ni anamachties 𐍃�����������𶰂����🌗 �𝌵𝌵𝌗𝒻𝒻��🐸 Tharach 𝍼𝌹��������������� lesari tho 𝍆�������������� 𝌲������������ If Jesus inse Juan's ima frioda ina 𝌲����������� enis thus Juan ist gang 𐍃������������🍃���� 𐌲����������� 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 So this means it is 𝑍ᵗ but he spoke to him. And this is Jesus referring to a man who accosted him on the road and called him mighty. 𝍃������� Why do you call me mighty? Ni 𝍽𝒻 𝑍ᵗ Nobody is mighty, ni 𝍽𝒻. Alia ens guth, but, or except for, God alone. Or the one God as well. There are two ways you can translate that. Ens is the word for one, so you could translate it as the one God. Thos anavus means kant. Kant is you know those commandments. Ni ���🹹🶶, don't commit adultery. Ni ���🹹🶶, don't murder. Ni ��������, don't steal. Ni 𝑐𝑠 don't be a false witness. Ni anamachties. I'm forgetting now what anamachties. I think it's don't be violent, or maybe it's don't sort of oppress people. 𐍃�������������������� 𝌲����������� Honor your father and your mother. Tharach 𝑍ᵗ And then the man who accosted Jesus, answering, spoke to him, lesari, teacher, tho 𝍆���������������������� 𝌲���������������� I have kept ���������������, I have fastened all of those things, tho 𝍆 𝌲������������ since my youth. If Jesus inse Juan's ima, but Jesus, looking in at him, frioda ina, loved him, 𝌲💾💾 and said to him, enis thus Juan ist. There is a lacking for you of one thing. Gang, go. 𝌲𒰰��������𒃗𝌃 as much as you have. 𝑍ᵗ sell it, 𝌲𝌰��������𒃗���� and give it to the needy. 𝌲������������🃃���� and you will have a treasure chest in heaven. 𝌲𝌃⁴ come here, follow me. Niman's galgan, taking up my cross. So this is Jesus calling us to go beyond what the Marxist doctrine is saying. And this is why I say Jesus is not like a proto-Marxist. Jesus is much more extreme than Marx. Marx is saying from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Jesus is saying no. We had the passage earlier about the tunic, don't have two tunics. And he's saying maybe have one tunic to meet your needs. But this passage is going even further. And Jesus is saying, don't meet your needs. Give everything you have, 𝌲𒰰��������🃃���� as much as you have, and give it to the needy. And take up this cross, this burden, presumably of poverty perhaps, and follow me, and follow Jesus. So it's a really extreme message of charity and love. And we did have that verse earlier saying that charity is above all others, all other things in life. That's the most important of Christian virtues. And I can get behind that. I think it's very important to look after the needy. And we can't always be perfect in this. I think we are in this world and we can't give away, as in most of us would struggle to give away everything we have. That's what monastics do. But I think we should help those who are in need as much as we possibly can. And here we have a Visigothic cross pendant. This is a very jeweled one. This is, of course, much fancier than most Visigoths would have worn, but it gives you a sense of the kinds of jewelry that they had. And it's also very pretty. So we've come to the end of our Gothic through archaeology. Hopefully we've learned 10 words from this, and you can also picture each of those words associated with a Gothic artifact in your mind. So we have fingragolf, fingering. We have 𝑍𝌆, which is belt. We have 𝑍𝌆, which is chain. We have kas, which is a vessel. We have skats, which is a coin. We have lukarn, which is a lantern. We have 𝍃𝌺����, which is a crown. We have ara, which is an eagle. We have mace, which is a dish. And lastly, we have 𝍃𝌺����, which is a cross. So that's the end of our Learn Gothic through archaeology video so far. If you guys enjoyed this and you want more videos talking about Gothic archaeology and maybe contrasting with the Bible, do let me know. One thing though, if you do want to see more and you happen to know of any websites where you can find Gothic associated artifacts online, whether it's Visigothic or Ostrogothic, if you would let me know, that would be much appreciated, because then I can use these. Most of these artifacts I found either on the British Museum's website, they have a large collection of artifacts, or on Wikimedia Commons. But I'm always open to finding more sources where I can find images of these awesome Gothic artifacts. I'll end on the eagle because the eagle is much more of a Gothic symbol. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you want more videos specifically on the Gothic Bible, anything like this in the future. And I hope you guys have a good day. One last thing, I will leave a link to my Discord server if you want to request video topics, or you want to discuss anything that I talk about on my channel with me, or just come and chill and have a good time. Link will be in the description below. You can come and join my Discord server. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a good day, and 𝌲�����������𶑰𝑙𝐻𝑎𝑙𝑎𝑚.